What if I told you that the world's first international bank wasn't in New York, London, or Zurich, but inside a monastery? What if knights in white robes, sworn to poverty and silence, invented the credit card system 800 years ago? What if the roots of modern finance, debt, interest, even offshore banking, were born not from greed, but from faith? This is the untold story of medieval bankers, men who built fortunes before capitalism had a name, who financed kings, controlled wars, and shaped the world we still live in. And their greatest secret wasn't gold, it was trust. To understand how medieval banking began, we must start with a paradox. In the 12th century, Christianity banned usury, charging interest on loans. Money was seen as sterile, incapable of creating life or value. Yet Europe was expanding. Trade routes stretched from England to the Holy Land. Merchants, pilgrims, and kings all needed a way to move wealth safely across dangerous lands. Enter the Knights Templar, warrior monks who became the first true financial innovators. They built a network of commanderies across Europe and the Middle East, where a pilgrim could deposit gold in Paris and withdraw it in Jerusalem, a medieval version of a wire transfer. They invented letters of credit, encrypted symbols, and coded ledgers. Their reputation for honesty was so strong that kings trusted them more than their own treasuries. By the 13th century, the Templars were not just monks, they were bankers to the world. They managed royal debts, stored the crown jewels of France, and became so rich that they could influence politics from behind monastery walls. But power built on faith is fragile, and soon that faith would be tested and destroyed. It began with King Philip IV of France, a ruler deep in debt to the Templars, desperate for cash and obsessed with control. In 1307, on Friday the 13th, he struck. Thousands of Templars were arrested, accused of heresy, tortured, and executed. Their leaders were burned alive, their assets were seized, and the world's first great financial network vanished overnight. But something remarkable happened. The Templars' methods, double-entry accounting, coded ledgers, letters of credit, survived. Their innovations spread across Europe, finding new homes in the city-states of Italy. Florence, Venice, Genoa, the future capitals of capitalism. The Templars had died, but their system, the idea that trust could be monetized, had just been born. Florence, 14th century, a city of art, trade, and ambition. And in the shadows of its cathedrals, a family begins to rise, the Medici. Giovanni de' Medici de' Medici started modestly as a money changer. He learned the art of transforming gold into influence, coin into connection. But what set him apart wasn't greed, it was vision. The Medici understood that the church's ban on usury could be bent if loans were disguised as exchange fees or currency conversions. Through ingenious accounting, they made interest appear moral. Their power exploded when they became the official bankers of the papacy, handling church tithes, indulgences, and crusade funds. They built a network stretching from Rome to London, Bruges, and beyond. For the first time, a private family could influence not just kings, but popes. Florence became a financial hub and the Renaissance's beating heart. Art, science, and philosophy bloomed, financed by Medici gold. But behind every masterpiece, there was a ledger. Behind every chapel dome, a balance sheet. And behind every saint's face, a banker's calculation.
Power never expands without a price.
As the Medici Empire grew, so did the complexity and the risk. Their success relied on a delicate balance of trust. Each Medici branch operated semi-independently, sending letters across Europe by horse. A delay, a bad investment, or a political shift could destroy everything. By the late 15th century, debts mounted. Wars drained treasuries. Kings delayed payments, merchants defaulted, and entire markets collapsed. The Medici's empire began to crumble under its own weight. Ironically, it was their own financial innovation, credit expansion, that became their undoing. They had created wealth faster than it could be sustained, and when trust began to waver, the system imploded. Sound familiar? While Florence stumbled, Germany rose. In Augsburg, a new dynasty of bankers emerged, the Fuggers. Led by Jakob Fugger, known as the Rich, they transformed banking from a family business into a geopolitical weapon. The Fuggers financed emperors, popes, and explorers. They backed Charles V in his quest for the Holy Roman Crown in exchange for lucrative mining rights and trade monopolies. Jakob Fugger became the richest man in Europe, perhaps the world, his fortune rivaling entire kingdoms. But, like the Medici, his empire depended on one thing: political stability. When empires fell or wars erupted, loans went unpaid. When peasants revolted and markets crashed, trust evaporated. And the same invisible thread that once lifted fortunes now strangled them. By the mid-16th century, the Fuggers' empire too began to decay, eroded by wars, inflation, and the sheer impossibility of controlling global credit. The pattern was set. Each generation built wealth on the same equation. Faith equals credit equals expansion equals collapse.
History doesn't repeat, it rhymes. The echoes of medieval finance still shape the global economy today. The mechanisms have changed, but the psychology hasn't. Take the global financial crisis of 2008. Subprime mortgages, derivatives, digital trading. Complex and modern, but beneath the algorithms was the same principle. Money created from promises. Just like the Templars or the Medici, modern banks lent more than they owned. Just like the Fuggers, they believed that credit could expand forever, until faith broke. In 2008, it wasn't kings or popes who defaulted. It was corporations, households, and nations. But the reaction was identical. Loss of trust, frozen credit, desperate searches for rescue. And who stepped in to play the role once held by the Church or the Medici? The central banks, the Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, the IMF, modern temples of economic faith. They printed money, not from gold, but from confidence. Trillions were created, not mined or earned, but simply declared. And like the Medici's exchange contracts, it all worked, as long as people believed. But faith has limits. When inflation rises and debt towers over GDP, the system begins to tremble, just as it did centuries ago. The form is digital, but the fear is ancient. And now a new transformation is underway. Digital currencies, blockchain, and decentralized finance promise freedom from institutions. But remember, the first decentralized bankers were monks and knights, trusted by faith, not code. The cycle continues. Templar crosses become bank logos. Ledgers become blockchains. And behind every new financial miracle lies the same fragile equation: belief multiplied by leverage. So when we look at Bitcoin, NFTs, or trillion-dollar valuations of unprofitable companies, we're not seeing innovation. We're seeing repetition, the same story retold in code instead of parchment. And the question remains, the same one that haunted the Templars, the Medici, and the Fuggers. How long can trust expand before it collapses? How many promises can the world believe in at once? The answers aren't written yet, but history whispers one warning. Every credit system ends not with chaos, but with a quiet loss of faith. The story of medieval banking isn't about gold or greed, it's about belief. Every monetary system, from the Templars to Bitcoin, rests on trust. When that trust grows faster than reality, bubbles form. When it collapses, chaos follows. And when it's rebuilt, the world looks new, but the rules are the same. So what can we learn from the medieval bankers, those quiet architects of the modern world? 3 lessons stand out. Lesson 1. Trust is power, but it's also fragile. From Templar vaults to digital wallets, money exists only because we agree that it does. The more abstract it becomes, the more powerful and the more vulnerable it is. Protecting trust means protecting civilization itself. Lesson 2. Wealth without restraint destroys its creators. The Medici rose through credit and fell through excess. The Fuggers financed empires and watched them default. Every generation believes it can control the system until the system controls them. Lesson 3. History doesn't repeat, but we repeat its mistakes. Every crisis, from 1340 to 2008, follows the same rhythm. Innovation, optimism, leverage, collapse. We invent new tools, but rarely change our behavior. Technology evolves, human nature does not. The medieval bankers weren't villains. They were visionaries, trying to understand how invisible trust could move the world. And in doing so, they built the foundations of everything we call the economy. But their greatest secret wasn't in their ledgers or their vaults. It was in this truth. Money is only as strong as the story people believe about it. So as we stand on the edge of a new financial revolution, with digital currencies, AI economies, and invisible markets, we face the same old question. Do we control the story, or does the story control us? Because the future of money won't be decided by algorithms or interest rates. It will be decided by belief, and by whether humanity can remember the lessons carved in medieval stone, that trust, once broken, takes generations to rebuild. So the next time you open your banking app, trade a stock, or hear about a new economic miracle, remember, every miracle of finance is built on the same fragile magic that once flowed through Florence and Augsburg. We live in the future that medieval bankers imagined and feared, and their question still echoes. How much is trust really worth?